should not say at the top when you get pulled over. Like, can you hold my beer while I get my license? Or do you have any bread so I can sober up? Today I would like to explain the consequences of drunk driving. I have a brother-in-law that has 3 DUIs, and I have seen the problems of drunk driving. I'm sure some of you guys have gone out for drinks or experienced someone in the family getting a DUI, stuff like that. I will talk about the personal problems, the financial effects, and the solution to drunk driving. Right here we have a chart. It all is equivalent to a 0.8, which is the legal limit to getting a DUI or not. So how much you weigh, the 12-ounce can of beer, stuff like that. I'm going to talk to you about the personal problems of getting a DUI. Fines can put you in debt, preventing income for your car, daily things like paying for groceries, all expenses that you have, and it can really change your life as far as your living situation and everything. Losing your license can be a burden on friends and family. They have to take you places, mainly the court, because that's where you're going to be going. They take you, to your school, to your work, and it could just make you not lose your job and stuff like that. Just not good. All these consequences will affect anyone's life, and there are facts that support this. In America, we have created strict rules for drunk driving. If found guilty, you have to pay a bail from $150 to $2,500 after arrest to be released from jail, just to get out of jail to pay the rest of the fines that come with it. On a first offense, a DUI can cost $10,000 or more. Assuming that you were only pulled over for drunk driving and not breaking the law or anything else. This is all according to drunkdrivingfacts.org. If a driver is accused of being intoxicated, then there are tests that are conducted. Some of the tests are walking in a straight line, like this, which is really hard when you're drunk, touching your nose, and following a pencil with your eye. And sometimes you don't really get a chance to even take any tests. Over the years, since '91, drunk driving fatalities have gone down. Only 10,228 in 2010, which is still a lot, so this is still a big concern. You might ask how we can fix these problems. Well, my brother-in-law chooses not to get his license due to the embarrassment of having to install a breathalyzer that goes in his car. And it goes off every 5 minutes, so that's really embarrassing for any type of business matters and stuff like that. You can't do business when something's going off like that, and he's a good businessman, so it really changes his life that way. If we take away driver's license after first conviction, it would prevent repeated DUIs, so it won't keep happening, because usually people get one DUI keep getting more, just in their nature. I do not think increased fines would solve any of the problems. I believe we do a great job preventing drunk driving as we are today. And I have explained the problems, facts, and solutions of drunk driving, so please, people, just don't drink and drive. Thank you.
Frank, what did you think?
Overall, it had a lot of good content. There was a few parts where images didn't quite match up with what you were talking about. There was one situation where you had drunk driving can be fatal, and then you were just talking about like social issues and financial stuff. So just kind of matching up what you're talking about with what's on the screen. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good speech. Like I said before, it had a lot of good content, And you've cited your sources pretty well.
All right. Well, I like the opening. I think the kind of humorous story quotes are fine to get our attention. We know what the subject is. The general idea of the topic is pretty clearly laid out, and I think there's a pretty reasonable preview. The content on each of those points needs to be pumped up a little bit because it feels sort of thin, and when I looked at the time finally I realized it was a little thin. That's part of the problem. So you're going to have to add some content to it to make it a little bit more full experience. I did like that you had a couple of incidents that you talked about, like, you know, it's your brother-in-law's experience, for instance, in deciding not to have a driver's license and not to go through the process of having a breathalyzer, that sort of thing. I think that kind of thing brings in some questions. Well, you know, when do they assign somebody a breathalyzer or require that they have it, and you know, how exactly does it work? I think you need a little bit more of the story there. And of course, it's a good experience, a good personal experience to talk about, but you need to generalize it a little bit more. So how many people, even if just we do one state, like in California, run into this issue where they are, you know, second or third time drunk drivers that have been required by the courts to have a breathalyzer installed in their car? Well, some data on that kind of thing I think would be the sort of thing that would fill in that point a little bit more and make it more complete. You've got a good story there, like I said, but let's now generalize it a little bit more. Let's make it a little bit more universal for people to understand, give it a little bit more context. And I think you need to do the same thing on some of those other points. We see the trend going down on the drunk driving fatalities, and one of the questions that comes into my mind is, okay, well, why has that happened? Is it because of these tools like breathalyzers, or is it because they are cracking down on them? Is there some explanation as to why that's happened? And I think that you need to give a little bit more complete explanation of some of those things. Some of the visual images I think are a little cluttered. You have, when you have the test, for instance, up there are actually like 6 pictures that we're looking at all at once, and I think that you want to focus on, you know, one thing at a time, and I think that it gets distracting when you have that many images up, and there are several of those slides that have that. You showed a chart at one point about weight and alcohol consumption, but you don't really explain it very clearly. I know that if I studied it for a couple of minutes, I might figure it out myself. You ought to be explaining it, though, and you never make reference to it after you show it to us, so I'm not sure why it's in the speech. It's probably connected to something that you're talking about on that first point, but you need to make it a little bit clearer how it relates to that. On the other hand, like I said, the bar graph that you showed on the declining number of drunk driving fatalities, I thought that was very easy to see. You know, we've got arrests and fatalities and that sort of thing being measured in comparison to each other, and how we've, you know, had a decline. So that part was easy to see. A little bit more explanation about why that happened, I think, would be appropriate. I think you do a nice job speaking to the audience for the most part. The delivery skills are pretty good. You seem relaxed, and you engage the audience for the most part when you do quite look at them pretty regularly, which I think is a good advantage. But like I said, the content feels a little empty. All right, thank you.